Folks, and welcome back to another Travels of Red Rover. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Corinne.
And where are we today, Corinne?
Today we are at the White Sands National Park in New Mexico.
Now, is it a national park or is it a national monument? Because it says both.
It does say both, but I figure since the one closest to the park says national park, that's the correct one.
And what I'm really hoping for is we're actually right beside the White Sands National Missile Range. And frankly, I'm hoping we'll see a few of those go by. Not likely, though.
No. So we've done a little reconnoitering today, checked out some of the trails just off from the road. There's lots of people here, and what we found out also is that during the winter, the park closes and you must be out by 6 p.m.
Which is actually, with the walk and then the drive out to get anywhere that's kind of interesting, means that there's not going to be a lot of sunset photography in this video.
Yes, if we were to get sunset, which is at 5:08 today, we'd have to hustle right out right after sunset, no blue hour shots, and we could make it out of the park in time.
Well, this fat boy's not running across the stand. This sand is really interesting out here. It's different from most sand dunes you'll run into. It is calcite, right?
Or, no, gypsum.
Gypsum. And it's a very firm material, so it actually makes it a little easier to walk on the dunes. But where it's been impacted by the wind, it is a real ankle twister if you can't see where you're going. So you do have to get in and out of here in the light, or be very careful if you're walking out at sunset. Anyway, we're going to try to take some photographs and use a little bit more of the shadowed light, and it should be happening here pretty soon. It turns out that there's a very large set of mountains to the west of us, so the actual sunset here should be really around about 4 o'clock, or at least when the sun actually goes behind the mountains.
Yeah, that's when we'll start to get a lot of shadows in our pictures, or no contrast between sunlight and shadows. It'll just all be shadowed.
Yeah, and so we're going to try to do a few shots then. The good thing is we got several days here, and because we've never been here before, it gives us a few opportunities to find some good compositions and work around all of the footprints.
So scattered around the sand dunes, there's quite a little bit of plant life, usually in the low-lying areas. And in our compositions we're working on here, there's some nice yucca plants. Of course, this is winter, so all the blossoms that have grown and the stalks that are on the plants are dried. So we're getting the past tense of the blossom season. And there's a nice group of stalks right here in this big yucca in front of us, and we're using that as our subject matter. The drawback is the light is behind us, and you can see a long shadow here from the yucca leading away. And either you like it or you don't. I don't know how I feel about it, so I've taken some pictures while the light's on it, and shortly the sun will be behind a hillside and we'll get it all in shadow, and try that too.
So I'm setting this shot up so that the two smaller yucca and the large yucca are part of my shot. The large yucca, the large yucca is anchoring it in the right-hand corner, and then the two smaller ones are filling out the shot. There's really nothing else in the shot. It's kind of some waveforms in the sand and sky behind, and so it's going to be a very, very stark and simplistic shot. Not very special in terms of shooting it. I'm not actually using any filters at all. It turns out that if you use a polarizer right now, the sky turns black as opposed to a deep blue. It's really not very attractive. So I've dumped the polarizer. Because I'm shooting away from the sun, or predominantly away from the sun, I'm really not going to need any filters at all. So it's just going to be f11, ISO 100. I've got my shutter speed is about probably 1/125th of a second. The only challenge will be later on in processing. The white sand is very, very white, although as the sun goes down behind the mountain here, it's starting to turn a little bit yellow. So it is changing color a little bit, and might have to compensate for that later on. We'll just have to see what it looks like. Finally, the only other thing that's really critical to this is to make sure that all three yucca are clearly separated. Actually, there's four. There's a double yucca over here on the right, and the yucca in the middle. So just I moved the camera around just to make sure that the yucca are all completely separate. Other than that, pretty straightforward. And we'll take a shot now with the big shadow in it, and then I'll take another shot in a little while when the yucca is completely in shadow and it's I don't have those big shadows coming away from the plants.
Well, the yucca back here behind me is quite tall, so I've set up my camera in a portrait orientation. And because I wanted to give some scale to it, I'm including a second yucca that's there. It's quite small relative to the one with the stalks on it. And so I've got the two of them paired up on my portrait orientation. My camera's got a 100 ISO, and I'm at a quite low white balance down near 5300, and I'm at f11.
Well, everything's in shadow, and that's what we were waiting for, with a little bit of light behind. It turns out to be not quite what I was expecting, but still a pretty lovely shot. Because you're this way? Well, actually, that's not bad. Oh. But all the way would be good. Oh. So yeah, now we got some sunlight on you. Uh-oh.
Let me get on the other side of you.
Yeah.
We've been out doing the Alkali Flats walking trail, and what's your thought of this?
Well, Corinne decided we'd do a power walk, and have you ever power walked in sand? Basically 30 minutes into it, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, lots of ups and downs. Not terrible, just running up some sand dunes and sliding down the other side, but it's been fun and the views are beautiful.
So we're about a mile into the trail, and I gotta say, it is really beautiful out here. It's absolutely worth coming out on the trail. Part of our challenge is we have to keep stopping and taking photographs. It's just so gorgeous. And of course, that's a little rest. So that's my excuse anyway.
Yeah, the trail is about 5 miles and they recommend 3 hours to do it. Bring water and bring a cell phone so that if you get into trouble, you can text for some help.
Yep, it is definitely a trail that's easy to get lost on if you get away from the orange pylons, and because everything literally looks exactly the same out here if you get away from the pylons. And so yeah, bring a cell phone, as Corinne said. If you got a GPS device, maybe even bring that, and absolutely bring some water.
And it's a beautiful trail, lots of dunes, not too much plants except at the bottom of the hollows, and just miles and miles of pure white sand. Well, we're out for some landscape photography this evening, back at White Sands, and we have come to the dunes that are near the Alkali Flats Trail. Shawn and I have split up a bit. He's working up on a higher dune over here, and I'm working lower down. It's about 50 minutes before sunset, and we've just got our cameras set up. We're both going to work with our long lenses tonight. We're trying to compress the the look of the dunes so that they appear to be closer together. And we're working on some shots that are just the white rolling dunes and the distant mountains in the background. So it's quite nice out here right now. We've got some high clouds, so it's enabling us to do some early photos and shoots to get a sense of how our pictures will turn out for sunset. And we're hoping we're going to get some nice color in the clouds tonight. That's Shawn way up on the hill over there. It looks quite far away from the camera, but he's actually a lot closer, just on the next hill. And over here is the direction I'm taking my shot. You can see that there's just a bit of edge of light high cloud right here. And I'm not sure if that's going to move over to the right, but I'm aiming more to the right of this. If it fills in to the right, more westerly, it'll work perfect for my picture. One of the things that we find is a fairly common circumstance is that people like to climb up to the tops of the sand dunes to watch the sunset. We've seen this as well when we go to Death Valley and hang out at the Mesquite sand dunes. So as you can see up behind me, you can get a lot of people that might be in your shot if you're trying to capture the tops of the dunes. I've embraced some of this by using the people as a scale for some of my pictures, and in other circumstances I try and pick an angle where there aren't quite as many people hanging out. So a little bit of both. Sometimes you work with what you got. The sun's getting quite a bit lower, and we'll probably see it set in the next 20 minutes. Done a few pictures with the camera facing towards this cloud layer that I showed you earlier, and then I may turn around just at sunset and shoot in the other direction because there's a nice mountainscape in the far distance. Here's my current view. I've been working on trying to include some of the textured sand. It may look like a lot of footprints down there. There's really not as many footprints as it first appears because down in the lower parts the sand has gotten cemented together and it's made various ripples. So that's a texture of the sand out here. You can see the bright light over the mountains there in the west, and I've got my camera set up with a f/16, ISO 100, and we are using some filters tonight to kind of cut the glare from the sky and make that white sand a little bit more visible. I've got a 1-stop and 2-stop graduated filter slightly offset from one another so that it's harder to see where the line of the filter is. These are graduated filters, so the lower part doesn't get filtered, only the sky portion.
Well, I've been working with a shot in this direction. The sun's a little off to my right, and it's given just an absolutely beautiful glowy kind of light. I'm trying to capture the sort of the valley here between the two sand dunes, and really what I'm doing is sort of letting the light guide the eye down through the valley into those beautiful clouds in the background there. So I've currently got a 3-stop soft edge filter in the front. It's just to highlight the sky down in the background there. But otherwise it's a very, very simple shot.
decided to brave the cold morning and come out for a sunrise here at White Sands. We couldn't get into the gate until 7 when they open up. So just as we arrived at the parking location, the sun was cresting over the mountains to the east, and we were already getting some sunlight on the dunes. We've come a little way from the parking lot to find a spot with a few less footprints in it, and we're not in the way of other photographers. We're hoping to catch a little bit of the sand curls as the sunlight's hitting them.
Did she mention it was 17 degrees Fahrenheit?
And this is the warmest morning we've had this week.
Yeah. So it's quite cool. It's absolutely gorgeous out here right now. Just absolutely gorgeous. The sand is all kind of sparkly, and it's a really, really pretty time to be here.
It's funny because it feels cold and the sand looks so white, you almost feel like you're photographing snow dunes.
Yeah, it really feels like that, doesn't it? Anyway, we're having a great time and enjoying the shoot this morning. So Corinne and I have picked a nice small dune, and we picked this dune for a couple of reasons. One, it's quite clean, at least at the end we're shooting at. The second thing is there's a beautiful mountain right behind, so that when you're filling out the photograph, you have the dunes on the one side, you have the plants that are just kind of golden red right now with the morning light, and then the mountain in the background. So it's quite a nice image from the point of view of setting up the composition. The other thing we're doing is shooting at pretty standard settings, ISO 100, f11. Don't know what the shutter speed is, but it's probably fairly quick, you know, 1/40th of a second sort of thing. Have brought down my white balance to about 5500 so that I don't have everything get real red-green, sort of blowing out right now, because it's the sand doesn't come out white if you have your white balance a little too high. That's about all. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward shot. Hi folks, well, it's the next evening. This is going to be the last evening we're going to be here. And Corinne and I are out on the opposite side from all our other photographs to try to get a shot of a century plant and that beautiful mountain in the background. Tonight we're not planning on getting any clouds in the sky, so we're not expecting to get any kind of color in the sky from clouds or, you know, reflection, that sort of thing. What we're hoping is that every other night there's been a really beautiful band of Venus back there, and we're hoping to get the century plant and the mountain together in the same shot with the rings of Venus back behind us. So we're kind of hoping that's what's going to happen, and we're getting set up for that shot. Well folks, it's about ends this video from White Sands National Monument, or Park, whichever.
If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give us a thumbs up.
And if you would like to keep track of us, please subscribe.
And if you want to know when new videos are posted, hit that bell button down below.
And as always, we love hearing from you, so don't hesitate to leave us a comment, a thought, an idea. We read them all and we answer as many as we can. So until next time,
bye for now.
Bye for now.